Are you concerned about the 2019 political race? Politics.
No. I want Nigeria that works today. So many Nigerians are going to be dead by 2019.
Why?
Because they will be dead. People die every day, don't they? That's fact. I don't know whether I'll be alive tomorrow. Now you're getting me involved in a conversation about 2019 when government is not working in 2017.
I think the government is not working?
No, it's not working.
We just exited recession, Professor.
Well, if you read Dele Shobowale today, he cast serious aspersions and serious doubts on those figures. You know, I have tremendous respect for the work that the MBS has been doing, and you know, I am not getting into that. But there are serious questions, and certainly Nigerians are struggling to pay school fees, and I'm sure people have been begging you for money to contribute to their school fees. If you work in this country, people will be asking you to help them pay school fees, not because they're lazy, but because they're not making ends meet. And I do think that we should consider those when we start celebrating these things.
When the president said, look, exiting recession is not a main issue, but is more fulfilled when an average Nigerian feels that we have exited recession.
The president didn't say that. Somebody issued a statement on his behalf.
That's
no,
that
I've not
assumption.
No,
that when there is a statement on behalf of the president, which he said that, quoting the president, isn't that supposed to be taking?
I'm sorry, no, we did not elect people to issue statements for us. We elected a president to speak to us as Nigerians. That is the difference. And we've got used to this idea that people can confection statements and tell us anything and we believe it. Since President Buhari took office, he's done one media briefing speaking to us as Nigerians. We deserve better. I'm sorry. He's not a potentate. We elected him. He's not God. Nigerians voted for this man. And he's treating us like we are idiots.
What would you have expected differently?
That President Buhari speaks to us as citizens. We deserve it.
He did a few days after I returned to Nigeria.
I'm sorry. He did a recorded broadcast. That is not good enough. We want... And look, Nigerians are not so wicked that they are not willing to give a man who is not well a bit of a break. No, we're not that wicked. But the man also has got to treat us like we're entitled to have a sense of what state he is in. At the moment, he is willfully, and I repeat myself, he's willfully refusing to tell Nigerians the truth.
All right. There are a lot of agitations about restructuring, and it's become a cliche when people say restructuring. Some even have said, look, we need to find out what exactly is this restructuring. In the center of the constitutional amendment process in the National Assembly, the issue of devolution of power was obviously out of the scenario. Where does this leave us if devolution of power, which is said to be a core of the structure that needs to be fixed, is out of that whole exercise?
Well, I don't know. The proposal on restructuring, in quotes, or devolution of powers in the constitutional amendment process, flawed as it was in the National Assembly, was quite modest. It was a mild reallocation of items across the exclusive and concurrent legislative lists, moving a few things around. For instance, enabling states to generate power by themselves, right? Because at the moment power is a matter on the exclusive legislative list. That failed. It did not make it beyond the National Assembly because it could not get the 2/3 of the members, of the distinguished senators and the honorable members, which, of course, gets us to the meat of the matter. What exactly does restructuring mean, and how are we going to make it work, and how do we muster the political consensus around it to get it across the line? At the moment, it doesn't seem quite clear to me, partly also because restructuring, I think we've discussed this here before, doesn't translate quite easily into any Nigerian language. You know, if I asked you what does restructuring mean in Yoruba, you probably come out with 3-4 different sentences or epigrams to explain it. All of them will be different, and some of them will be mutually self-contradictory. It's not much different in Hausa, it's not much different in Igbo, or Nupe, or Birom, or Efik. Now, so we've got to have some clarity as to what restructuring means across the nationalities of Nigeria. That's going to take a bit of time and effort. And there are problems in the country, obviously. Some of them, I think we are too focused on structure. We fail to recognize that leadership is probably our biggest issue. Achebe was right in 1983. Nigeria's biggest problem is leadership and failure of leadership at all levels, from the family level to the presidency. And we've been failed not once, not twice, but we've been failed chronically. And if we don't fix that, no amount of restructuring is going to save us from ourselves.
How do we do that?
Well, we've got to do our politics differently. We've got to invest in social goods. Education has got to work for people. Public health has got to work for people. At the moment, those things are not working. We've got to stop writing results of elections that do not correspond to votes. And people have got to take responsibility at our respective levels for getting the things that need to work. And above all, we've got to speak truth of power and stop worrying about whether or not they're going to kill us or we're going to die, because in the end, all of us will be dead.
Before I allow you go, Professor, what's your take on the scenario in Kenya when the Supreme Court came out to nullify an election and called for a rerun? That's somewhat something that is strange to, for example, the Nigerian climate.
Because our judges don't tend to judge the facts before them in presidential election petitions. They look to fictional stability issues. The Kenyan case was very clear. There was only one, quite honestly, there was only one verdict if you followed the facts, which is what the court reached. Now, in Nigeria, we've been there previously, to be honest with you. In 2007, no court in good conscience could reach the decision the Supreme Court reached in Buhari and Yaradua. The only fair decision to have reached on the facts in 2007 was to have struck down the election. In the end, that did not work. When you read the jurisprudence, you pity Justice Nikki Toby, for instance, who read the majority judgment, because he was trying to say something that, quite honestly, in jurisprudence and in good conscience, could not make common sense and could not make juridical sense. And that's the way it is. My hope is that we'll get better judgments in good time.
Professor Chidi Odinkalu, former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you coming. And that's our show for today. Many thanks for being part of it. I'm sure Kim Aloye. Bye for now.